Well, this is it, the final round, the sixth and final round of the GT4 European Series for 2021. It started in April at Monza, went to Paul Ricard in May, Zandvoort in June, Spa-Francorchamps in July. September went to Nürburgring, and now here in Barcelona, the last of the double headers. We know the identity of the Pro-Am champions. They are Gregory Guilbert and Fabien Michal for Team Full Motorsport with their Audi. We know the identity of the AM winners, Michael Blanchemin and Christophe Hamon. They sit top of the charts, but at the moment, top of the charts overall, Silver Cup, that title still to be settled. It's looking very good for Charlie Fagg and Bailey Voisin for United Autosports, but Stéphane Lemeray, Antoine Potty still have an outside shot at that title. Packed field of cars, 41 cars on the entry list, and this is the qualifying. It's a 20-minute session with a 10-minute gap, and then another 20-minute session to define the grids for the two races. And it's first of those will be kicking off at 4:40 this afternoon here in Barcelona. It's a morning that started grey, turned a little bright, going a little bit grey again, but track conditions tricky. No, it hasn't rained, but try to find grip this morning. Every single make of car that's gone out, the drivers have come back and said, where has the grip gone from yesterday? Famously fickle, the racing surface here. Change of just a few degrees in temperature. It's 21.5 degrees in enough track temperature. And some circuits it needs to go up 4 or 5 degrees to make a difference. Here at Barcelona, over the decades since it opened, it seems as though just a few degrees swing and all your setup feels as though it's gone out of the window. So right now it's not about long runs, it's about getting out there, putting a banker lap in, putting a second lap in, and hoping that's going to be good. And then maybe yet more, you can go out and put in some more laps. The W&D BMW first out of the pit lane. That's car number 50. WD Racing, Paolo Meloni and his longtime racing partner Massimiliano Tresoldi. But most of the pit lane just sitting, waiting, looking for their moment. Traffic is going to be an issue with 41 cars trying to make space in these two 20-minute qualifying sessions. You can see the banners, the SRO banners just waving up and down the pit lane, a gentle wind, quite fluky, but generally look higher and away from the grandstands. The wind's not moving too much. So I think from that point of view, no concerns, because famously here, used to get a big wind blowing up the start-finish straight that was fine for them there, would slow them down in terms of straight speed, but turning into corners like turn 3, that long uphill right-hander, used to be a little bit difficult with the wind coming in over the trees and moving the cars around. And just to reiterate, we have United Autosports with their McLaren 570Ss at the top of the pile. Bailey Voisin and Charlie Fagg, the teammates Gus Bowers and Dean McDonald, sitting down in 4th place in the championship. But for Fagg and Voisin, it's been a fantastic season. Started with those 2 wins in the opening races at Monza. They added a further win at Spa, and if they can put another one in the bag, then the title will be theirs. 25 points for a win, 18 for second, 15 for third, etc., down to 1 point for 10th. And just to pointed out, they're sitting, they can potentially earn with a point for pole position, 52 points this weekend. They're sitting on an advantage of 44, so sitting very well indeed. A good result in the first race without the chasing. Stéphane Lemeray and Antoine Potty taking a win. Then the championship is pretty much in the bag. Real mix of manufacturers here. Mercedes, strong representation. BMW, a good number. The Toyota Supra is very popular indeed. Waiting for the first lap to go on the board. And car number 70, silver Mercedes from the Trivelato racing team by Viorba Corse. That's Jean-Luc Massimiliano D'Oria, and new teammate this weekend, Francesco Guerra, taking the seat normally occupied by Jamie Caroline in that number 70 Mercedes. Using the curbs can be good, but a little too much curb, and you can see these cars really bounce around. Take a while to settle when they come back to terra firma. First 2 corners in the background. Turn 3, the long right-hander up the hill. And now you can see that number 70 Mercedes from Trivelato coming up into turn 4. No one else behind. It will get much more crowded. Aston Martins, Toyotas, again, great mix of cars. Get the heat in the tyres, find the performance, work it up. Still waiting for a flying lap to be put onto the board, and the first one through should be Francesco Guerra. One feels as we follow him down the slope out of turn 5, 6, and then the quick flick to the left and to the right at 7 and 8. And a lot of drivers use a little too much curb in the first part of these and then struggle in the second, and there was a case of just being too deep into the corner for Francesco Guerra. Italian racing driver. Turn 9, top of the hill. Again, a lot of drivers being pinged for track limit excess at the crest there. Looks like his lap is going to be rather ruined by people going very slowly on their out lap as he gets down to turn 10, revised turn 10 for 2021. Lights are flashing. Are they going to stay out of his way? Not by the appearance of the run of cars. One staying on the inside. It makes it a much wider line around the outside. He's weaving his way past the Aston Martin in front. So for Guerra, he won't be the first driver to be interrupted on a flying lap, but he certainly won't be the last. There's the chicane, and TCR cars were out on the circuit just before these, and they were using the chicane as well, but these GT4 cars looked a little more stiffly sprung. Okay, we'll get a sighter lap going in what is a sensible time. So top of the charts with a 1 minute 57.4, but looking that lap was a little bit loose. At turn 7 and into 8, we saw him running over the curbs. And the sequence up through turn 1s and 2 can be difficult. And as if to prove the point, rotating around, facing the wrong way in the track on the exit of 2. Piotr Chodzen in a Toyota puts a flying lap in as well, and so does Tom Hodier, but they are way off the pace of Francesco Guerra in that number 70 Trivelato Racing Mercedes. And some cars still sitting in the pit lane. I think one of the Santalog Audis is sitting down there as well. Yeah, that's car number 14. That could be one of the Audis. That's driven by Rui Meuhaas and Clément Seiler. 61 ACA ASP Mercedes rumbles away, that inimitable engine. No, Mauro Ricci and Benjamin Ricci. And the 26 Porsche Cayman as well in the pit lane. Allied Racing, that's Alexander Hartwig and Joel Comatius. Francesco Guerra, the only driver under the 2-minute mark, and under by 2.5 seconds. Just waiting to see really what sort of speed Charlie Fagg and Bailey Voisin can do. The number 23 McLaren. That will be indicative of what we can expect. Now we've got Loris Cabirou at the top of the table, now into the 1 minute 56s. So he's put Francesco Guerra a second behind him. And that's the CMR Toyota Supra he shares with, sorry, it's the Alpine, I beg your pardon, that he shares with Vincent Beltoise. So they're top at 1 minute 56.5. CMR confusingly run 2 Toyota Supras and the Alpine, and it's the Alpine that's up at the top of the charts. Car number 30, Loris Cabirou, and I think we may have a red flag. We do have a red flag, and unfortunately sitting deep in the gravel. Car number 21, round it went. Santalog Racing's Gregory Faisel facing the wrong way. Only 11 of the runners put a time on the board, and for, I would say, at least 6 of those were not representative times. They were first flying laps, sighter laps, but until this Audi is dragged out of the gravel, and of course the clock has stopped. That's up at turn 7, that tricky corner where the track flicks its way up the hill and clearly clouting the curb on the inside and then rotating into the gravel at turn 7 has brought it to a pause. So those that have put a time on the board can actually feel quite pleased with themselves there, because at least they've got something to show for this session so far. Stopped with just under 14 minutes on the clock. It was only 20 minutes in all, but almost all of the front runners have yet to show their hand. So it's Alpine from Mercedes, it's Loris Cabirou from Francesco Guerra. Up into 3rd place came the number 7 Street Art Racing Aston Martin, Pascal Bachmann, and then Piotr Chodzen pushed back in his Toyota to 4th place. A 5th that's in the Toyota, and a 5th manufacturer in 5th place overall, Eric Clement, car number 77. That's the team Full Motorsport Audi R8 LMS he shares with Roma Iannetta. So Francesco Guerra, Italian racing driver, racing in the Silver Cup class with Doria. Top of the table for a while, pushed back to 2nd place. But only 2 cars under 2 minutes. I'm sure more will follow, but their work has become a whole lot harder because they have to go out of the pits, do an out lap, find some space. The traffic necessarily will be more compressed. Everyone will be getting out there with, by the time even the last of the queue will have got out, there'll be under 12 minutes remaining in this session. Car 14, and we talked of Clément Seiler. Santalog Racing running a whole host of cars, and there's a base black and white livery on their flanks, and then this one has the yellow, a teammate car has green, another one has blue, so they can be picked out. And good work for the crews. They do look very, very distinctive indeed. Fourth fastest, Piotr Chodson, car number 33, the fastest of the Toyotas. SVC Sport Management shared with Anthony Chodson. So Chodson and Chodson, they used to race Maseratis and they've moved on out. Father and son combination with father setting the pace. Piotr, fourth fastest overall. And the sun now finally coming over the grandstands into the pit lane. You can see the mechanics getting the sun on their heads and shoulders. The pit garage is easier to see into now with a bit of light shining down. Cyril Salai, this is working our way through the Santalot cars. And car number 42, these are Fabien Michal and Gregory Gilbert. They are the Pro-Am champions already. They've had another fantastic season. They've raced together for a long time now, and they really do gel very, very well indeed. And of the 10 races we've had across the 5 rounds held so far, they have won the Pro-Am class in 6 of those. They've had 2 second places overall and 2 thirds. That is how good they are, and they really do set the standards in the Pro-Am class. So for the first time today, with the clouds having risen and generally dispersed, the track temperature, even in the middle of October, is going to rise relatively fast. It was 21.5 degrees when the cars were preparing to go out onto the circuit, and now with proper sunshine lighting the circuit and lighting the way for the drivers, showing them where track limits may be exceeded. We've gone green again, a sudden flurry from Team Full Motorsport, but they've got the longest run down towards pit exit. They were up by the GT4 scrutineering bay, and they've been released to work their way down to pit exit, and the field streaming out. Traffic will be an issue. The car in the middle of the screen, the number 70 Mercedes, has at least got the second fastest time on the board, but I fear we're going to have others potentially tripping each other up. How fast can they go? We haven't had any of the front runners really put a time in. Bear in mind, 1 minute 56.5 seconds is the best. That's the number 30 that is at the top of the table. Loris Cabarrou in the Alpine, he shares with Vincent Beltoise, and of course the second driver will run the second qualifying session. That's another 20-minute session that follows after a 10-minute break. But here we have 13 minutes left in this, and only effectively, I would suggest, 4 serious flying laps have been put in. Loris Cabarrou, Francesco Guerra, Pascal Bachmann and Piotr Chodson, or looked another way, Alpine, Mercedes, Aston Martin and Toyota. Top 4 positions so far. Now comes the scramble. The United Autosport McLarens out on the track, going to help each other around the circuit. They're running nose to tail. Don't get too close though. Suddenly the screen is starting to lighten up. That's where the standard yellow times, which are just an average time, are being exceeded by ones that these drivers haven't set before. The screen is going green, and in the case of, it looks as though it's Gregory Faisal was fastest through the first sector, but really these lap times aren't indicative. It's about building up to pace on this outlap, getting the heat into the tyres, working their way around, working together as teammates if you can, as United Autosports are doing, and seeing what sort of lap time you can achieve when you go on the next lap, the flying lap. Make space for yourself around the circuit. Onto the start-finish straight come the McLarens. First and second on the track. Looks though the number 70 Mercedes, always good time on the board, is tucked in behind. 1 minute 56.5 seconds to beat. And still traffic coming out. Will it interrupt the United Autosports cars? Car number 23, the championship leading car, gets into turn 1 without interruption. Bailey Voisin at the wheel. Looks like he should be able to get in a clear lap. Oh no, slow running Porsche Cayman up ahead. That's on an out lap, but certainly you can tell as they go out of turn 3 up to turn 4, Bailey Voisin already chipping away at his best time, as you'd expect every one of these drivers to be doing in this stop-start session. But the good news, it's start right now, but I'm really worried he's going to get on the tail of that Allied Racing Porsche Cayman, and it may interrupt his lap, but actually it's starting to pick up the pace. Down through the kink at turn 6 they go. Tricky combination of corners that follow turns 7 and 8. Let's see how Bailey Voisin does over the curbs, just gently over the curbs. The car is stable, it's balanced, it's not knocked out of line by clouting that curb on the left-hand side. Up to the crest of the hill at turn 9 they go. The blind turn-in. If you get a good run through here, not is it useful in the corner, it's the whole way down that infield straight down to turn 10. The turn 10 that's revised, made much friendlier than it was in previous years. It looks that he may just be able to squeak this lap in without interruption. The target time, 1 minute 56.5 seconds. We know how good this lap is as and when he gets to the end of the lap. Once he's gone through here, turn 12, around the top of the hill they go. They run flat and then they start to drop down towards the chicane. The right-hander down the hill to the chicane. Oh, Bailey Voisin right on the tail of the Allied Racing Porsche. It slowed right down in front of him, and this lap somewhat wrecked. He's going to have to see what he can do. But now he's backed off. He's given up, and the United Autosport cars are going to work their space in traffic. So those 2 laps that were put in by Loris Cabarrus and Francesco Guerra are looking more and more valuable. It's going to be, we've seen drivers interrupting themselves, and now down the start-finish straight, working a slipstream, go the 2 United Autosport cars, the McLarens, and maybe, just maybe, it'll come good. Nobody else still into the 1 minute. As I say that, Tom Hodier and Paolo Meloni go below 2 minutes, and we have a new name at the top. Jos Rapanga goes to the top. The number 17 Chevrolet from the V8 Camaro from V8 Racing. So that's gone to the top of the charts. Into second place, we have Robert Consani for Team Speed Car in his Audi, and the second generation Delsart racer, the Aston Martin racer from Mirage Racing. That's Ruben Delsart. His father, Raphael, I remember him racing in the late 1980s in the UK, goes into third place, becomes fourth place because Antoine Potti goes to the top of the charts. It's very close indeed. Half a second cover the top 4 runners. And at the moment, it's number 8, CMR, the Toyota Supra, top of the table. Antoine Potti. Antoine, of course, second in the championship, staying with Stefan Lemaire. A pole here would be very good indeed, particularly if the McLaren in the hands of Bailey Voisin does not qualify anywhere near him. Any advantage he can eke. He's going to try and get another faster lap in the number 8 Toyota, but traffic is tricky. But this second flying lap from Antoine Potti is an improvement by nearly 0.4 of a second in the first part of the lap. Doesn't want to be interrupted, but those 2 Aston Martins in front of him are lapping very well indeed. Loris Cabarrus fights back, goes to the top of the charts. He was fastest before the interruption, before the red flag. He's come back out and he's done it again. So his teammate will be very pleased with him indeed. And a new name in second place, car number 27, AGS Events. And that is Constantin. Sorry, it's not, it's his teammate, it's not Constantin, it's Cesar Gazzo in the Aston Martin from AGS Events. So Antoine Potti back into third place, half a second down on the ultimate place. Christophe Hamon absolutely flying around. He's already got the AM title in the bag, and looks so he may well be able to put himself towards the very top of the chart. This would be remarkable for the AM front runners. They've had such a good season in class. Bouncing over the curbs. 5 wins in class over the 10 races held so far. Is that too far out? That was hanging on right on the edge of a decent and possibly right on the edge of track limits through the exit of the chicane. And Christophe Hamon, is he going to go to the top? He's going to have to get really to the 1 minute 54s to do so. 1 minute 55.453, still a very good lap. Good for third place overall. That is fantastic for a driver running in the AM class. Team Full Motorsport have got just a good handle on where to get their cars out into traffic, waiting to see what the United Autosport McLarens can do. Bailey Voisin's time good only for 14th place so far. The sister car with Gus Bowers down in 40th place. But now, in the background, car number 42. So it's backed off a bit, but having banged in a very, very good first sector. Fabien Michal, no, it's just a long shot down on the run. The drop from turn 9 down to turn 10. And Michal, at the moment, down in 8th place, but expect that time to be really, really improved. 1 minute 55.079 seconds, the best so far. That's in the hands of Cabarrus. So middle sector, no good at all for the Mercedes from NM Racing. Luc Ibanez, having gained a tiny bit in the first sector, he's 5th fastest overall, but he's lost it all in the middle sector. Still time to make amends there. 6.5 minutes remain. Still waiting for a time from Fabien Michal. Will he improve? Well, 8th has become 9th as other drivers move forward. Clement Seiler's gone up into second place. That's why Michal's fallen down and did not improve. Michal getting caught in traffic, backing it off. So it's Alpine in the hands of Loris Cabarrus. Second place, it's Clement Seiler in his Audi. Third place, Cesar Gazzo in his Aston Martin. Great mix of cars. Changing fast at the top. Blink of an eye ago, Jos Rapang was fastest of all. He, in his Chevrolet, is down in 9th place now. Clement Seiler improves his position, stays in second. Quarter of a second down from Loris Cabarrus, who's in the 1 minute 54s now. 1 minute 54.842 seconds. The number 30 Alpine, fastest of all. Just looking to see if any of the major players have not set a time. The only person who hadn't set a time has just done one, and that was the Audi that went for a spin, car number 21. Faisal moved up to 34th position, that becomes 35th, just dropped as the second McLaren. The Gus Bowers car puts him back a bit, but he's 2.6 seconds down on the ultimate pace, still set by Loris Cabarrus. Of course, we have to do it all over again because this is for the driver 1. The driver 2 choice goes out next time around. Loris Cabarrus coming into the pit lane. Still fastest in that little Alpine, the A110. Number of drivers coming into the pits. Still only Cabarrus in the 1:54s. Now, who is going to make space? Who is going to make a run at the moment? Looking for any purple times on the screen. None at the moment. Nobody's improving on the ultimate pace set so far. Alexander Hartwig pushing on, but again, that middle sector, you make a mistake at turn 7 and it just really manifests itself, and you've undone your lap before you've even really got towards the halfway point. Top 3 runners, Cabarrus, Saylor, Gazzo, all in the pits. Fabien Michal improved last time around to go into 4th place overall. So the Pro-Am champions continuing to show their great form here. It's Alpine from Audi, from Aston Martin, from Audi. And then the best of the Mercedes, Luc Ibanez in 6th place overall. Championship challengers, Antoine Potti down in 8th place overall, but importantly for him, Bailey Voisin, the championship leader, the driver he has to beat, is down in 18th. Allied Racing just saw their car on the screen a short moment ago. Car number 22 has suddenly gone into 3rd place. Joel Sturm sharing that with Bastien Buss this weekend. Bastien, who's shown great form in this championship in the past, takes the place previously occupied by Nikolai Moller-Madsen at Allied Racing. And that's the sister car of the 26 we've just been looking at on screen. So can the 26 combo with Alexander Hartwig work its way forward? It's already got a good qualifying position, 11th place overall. Top 2 runners still confident, their times are good. Joel Sturm in 3rd place overall. He only needs to find he has to find a 100th of a second, and he will equal Clement Seiler. Could have a front row start if he can find a little squeak of time. In the Porsche Cayman, tempting to run deep into turn 8. Better off being slightly slower in 7, getting it tidily through 8 and on up the hill to turn 9. But it goes to show those that set quick times early on, the handful of cars, the 4 runners that managed to do so, doesn't manifest itself when everyone else gets to go, because Piotr Chodson, remember, in his Toyota was 4th fastest. He's now 43rd and at bottom of this field. So he's 4.8 seconds down, but he did at least the early knockings get a time on the board. Had to be more instant, then he might have been able to start the first of the races further up the table. It does seem the drivers wanting to keep some tyres for the second qualifying session, so if they're confident with their time, they bring their cars in and slot them back in the pit. So suddenly we've got nearly half the field entering the pit lane, and the other half of the field in 2.5 minutes. Oh, under 2 minutes remaining in this session. Still trying to improve their position. No one has done so for quite some while at the top end of the field. The only changes of position coming towards the lower half of the grid. Those that, oh, we've had a spinner and a big hit coming out of the final corner. One of the Team Full Motorsport Audis has spread debris right across the circuit. Unfortunately, classic case of hooking a wheel over the curbing and hit the pit wall on the pit wall side. And for those behind, trying not to get any debris on their tyres is going to be very hard indeed, because they're coming through the final corner with yellow flags being waved and having to back off. And Toyota coming through at great pace, getting a bit of a wobble there, car 33. So big hit for the Audi over the start-finish straight. Didn't reach the start-finish line. So the session red flagged in the final minute, and it will not restart. So with Loris Cabarrus having set the fastest time, that will be pole position for the CMR crew. Number 14 in 2nd place, that's the Santilot Racing Audi with Clement Seiler. as the red flags are waved, and the others drivers will be coming back round and entering the pit lane. So just in terms of the championship challengers, didn't get a representative lap put in really by Bailey Voisin. His best lap was blocked by traffic, and the championship leader down in 18th place. So it's going to be a big scramble for him. And the driver who will be aiming to topple him from the top of the championship table, really requiring 2 wins, one would suggest, across the 2 races this weekend. Starting 9 places further up, Antoine Potti in the number 8 Toyota will be starting in 9th place. And so just a premature end to the session, but only just. I mean, only a handful, half the field already sitting in the pit lane, and the Team Full Motorsport Audi of Eric Clement, Romain Iannetta bring that to an end. And please report the driver now out of the car. That's Eric Clement, and walking gingerly away, but there was a lot of debris on the circuit, and already the marshals busy clearing up the shards. So let's take a look at the table at the end of that session. And the driver away by the pit wall, a bit tender there, but the front end of the car took the full brunt of the ball. The format of the final corner, turn 16, you can see drivers traditionally run wide over the curbing. It clearly just got away from as he brought it back round. But CMR had the post. They're Alpine at the top of the table, so job very well done for Loris Cabarrus. Second place for Clement Seiler in his Audi. Third place, quite a late challenge there from Joel Sturm, up into third place overall. Gazot in the Aston Martin in 4th place overall. Fabien Michal already got the Pro-Am title in the bag, sharing with Gregory Gilbert across the season. He is 5th as the top Pro-Am runner. And Christophe Hamon, a fantastic run in his Audi, running in the AM class to be 6th fastest, and still a few of the top shots not getting their times on the board in that stop-start session. And they will rue that mistake. And if, as ever, you have to work your space in traffic with 43 runners around this circuit, and Loris Cabarrus went to the top not once but twice, so really thoroughly deserves the award. Now it will be the turn within 10 minutes time or so for his teammate Vincent Beltoise to get out onto the circuit and see what he can do in the second of the qualifying sessions for this, the final round of the 2021 GT4 European Series, and a great mix of manufacturers at the top of the table as ever in this ultra competitive series. And not too long ago we had fields under half the size of this one. It's worth reiterating, we need to go to the 3rd page of the timing screen to get down to the bottom of the field. And again, just an amazing array of manufacturers. The teams that just do such a professional job. The presentation of the cars absolutely immaculate, and even at this late stage in the championship, still newcomers entering the series. And Alexandra Papadopoulos, American racer there, you can see showing with Jacob Knoll, you know, another face that's come to enjoy the championship. Arcadia Racing brought an extra Alpine this weekend, and it's good to see the numbers continuing to rise. And an extra Mercedes from ACA ASP as well. Christophe Bouret and Pascal Gibbon coming to join the fun, having spent most of the season racing in the French Championship. So it's a heady mix of cars and drivers getting to enjoy the circuit here in the sunshine, the October sunshine here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. And Eric Clement, the driver who brought the session to an end there, who limped away from his car, now walking a bit more freely. 32nd fastest, 2 and a bit seconds down on the pace, and that's an accolade as well. You look at the fact that 2 seconds and covered 30 or so cars, and in all, well, Piotr Chodson a little bit slow at the back of the field, but everyone else really very, very tight in terms of time. But the bragging rights to Alpine, to CMR and to Loris Cabarrus, pole position by 1/4 of a second, and we get to do it all over again because the second drivers in these cars are now getting a bit of gen from their teammates, and then considering what to do. And when the session goes green, they will have 20 minutes to get the heat in their tyres, remember what their co-driver told them about where the grip was or not around the circuit, and go out and put a time on the board, put one sensible lap in, and then see if you can have a faster one. But you've got to get a sensible flyer in. Traffic will be an issue. So Bailey Voisin, the championship leader, will be talking to Charlie Fagg and telling him what to do. Antoine Potti climbing out of his Toyota. There are the Chodsons. Father Piotr handing over to Anthony, son, who's getting on board. That was the car that was at the bottom of the table. Let's see what the younger Chodson can do in that, because we know that the Toyotas are very, very handy indeed. and certainly have been very popular since they entered the championship a few years ago. That is if you're a fan of GT4 racing, that is a fantastic sight. The whole pit lane filled with GT4 cars. Well, not the whole pit lane, because some are now already out on the circuit. The clock should be counting down on the timing screens. Mine aren't as yet, but we'll have a 20-minute qualifying session. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'm looking at the highlights. I apologise. So we had a little spin there from the Alpine. That was on the exit of corner number 2. Then we had Gregory Fessel dropping it into the gravel at turn 7, but everyone else behaved very well indeed. They had to go back out and really make a run of it, and it looked as though the McLarens from United Autosports were going to do just that, but they found traffic ahead of them and had to back right off. That cost them the best flying laps. Didn't get to count, because by the time they got to the corner before the chicane, traffic had interrupted their flow. But for number 30, it was a couple of clear laps that really worked. They found the space in the traffic, and Loris Capirou did the rest. So let's go down to the pits and hear from the driver who was fastest of all. His name is Loris Capirou.
Loris, c'était une super performance, dominé le premier partie de la qualif.
Ouais, c'était vraiment super. On a bien travaillé hier avec les ingénieurs, mon coéquipier et les mécanos. On a réalisé un bon setup et j'ai réussi à trouver un tour clair pour faire le bon tour, et ça a suffi.
Merci bien.
Merci.
Loris just saying there that they worked very hard with the team yesterday and with the mechanics to make sure they had a great setup, and that there was one great lap that he's very happy with.
Thank you very much, Gemma. And it was also his ability to find space in the traffic that I think worked very well indeed. But Loris should be very proud of that, because he didn't do it just once, he did it twice, both sides of the initial stoppage. So well done to them. But for the rest of the teams, just waiting for the remainder of the debris to be cleared just before the start-finish line. And the flatbed is already just about to winch the number 77 Audi up onto its back deck. And good to see the driver walk away from that, because it can go wrong quite quickly when you come out of the final corner and just go too wide and hook a wheel in the gravel. We see many cars kicking up the dust as they go there, but there's always the danger of the car snapping away. But for the drivers right now, it's all about what grip is out there in the circuit. The temperature is now starting to rise properly. We've had proper sunshine for about 40 minutes now. It was a bit grey first thing this morning, and it's about keeping it cool, working out, do we hang back, do we lose half a lap potentially, let the others get ahead and then go out, or do we go right from the outset, try and get to pit exit ASAP and be one of the first cars going to set a flying lap? And will someone interrupt your flying lap by dropping the car and bringing out a red flag? All these factors have to be considered. So as we take a move up the pit lane, you can see these cars really do look fantastic in the Spanish sunshine. Car 53, one of the many Mercedes from ACA ASP. That's Christophe Bourret and Pascal Gibbon. Normally compete in the French series, but have decided to come and play here as well to conclude their season. And why not, indeed? Car 88, another ACA ASP number. Sounds familiar from the GT3s. That's Paul Evroy and Timothée Bourret. Bourret spelt differently to the Bourret in the other car. This is B-U-R-E-T on this one. Car 35, yet another ACA ASP. Sorry, it's a Celestar Racing Team one, Jacob Knoll. And now, let's go down, because one car went very well indeed. It's car 27. Let's hear from César Gazot.
César, how are you feeling after that first session of qualifying there?
I'm very happy. The car was very good to driving. The whole team did a great job. Now we are focused on the race. We start P4, so it's very good, and it's all. I'm happy, and let's go for the race.
Do you like this circuit?
Yeah. The adventure with IJs become start here, and the finish the season here is good for me.
Thank you very much. Have a great race.
Thank you.
Well, good to hear from César there. So if you're an Aston Martin fan, he's done a good job. The V8 Racing Camaro, always distinctive in that metallic blue that V8 Racing have run for a very long time now. And good to see them running well early on, at least. Yot Rapanga now, Timon Nabur is about to take that over. And that's a car that really can rumble. And again, great diversity. It was good to see different manufacturers playing. And their best result so far is 4th, which they've achieved 5 times across the season so far. They must be aching for that first podium. Maybe it will come here in Spain. In fact, Timon and Jos don't have a championship championship shout in the Silver Cup. The overall, but they're down in 5th place. It's been a decent season, but the lack of podiums has hurt them a little bit. But great consistency by and large. Racing one here with one of their many Audis. Great livery on that. I rather like the speckled back end. And the cleaning up continues. The car has been removed on the flatbed and a lot of the quick dry powder put down. And you can see the mark on the wall where the front end of the car went in and then swung around and hit again, and then the car came back onto the circuit. But repairs being effected actually very effectively indeed, I must say. But you know, it's worth an extra few minutes just to get any little shards that could cause a puncture. Going down the start-finish straight, of course, the fastest point on the circuit, and at that point they're accelerating hard, carrying what speed they can through that final corner. Back in the pit lane, some really great-looking Aston Martins. There, car 79. This is when you get to the world of Leo and Petelet. So let's go back down and hear some more voices from the pit lane with Gemma.
Rudolf qualified 4th in class for Pro-Am and 12th overall. Happy with that?
Yes, the car is good. We like very much the track, and Gael is a very good driver, and I think maybe he pushed for finish in the 3rd in the qualifying.
Excellent. And for the start of that race then, 12th overall, a little bit of traffic into the first corner. What will you be looking for?
Yes, it's dangerous. 12, it's a little bit dangerous, but maybe we be careful and it's okay. After the first lap, it will be okay.
Then you can enjoy the race.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's Rudolf Walgren sharing with Gal Castelli, Mirage Racing Alpine, and they've done very well in the French series. They won the opening round, both races of it, and they were running in the Pro-Am class, so they started well at Nagaro. Great to have more and more of these runners coming across from the French series to have a bit of Spanish sunshine and enjoy the end of the year. 4th in the Pro-Am class in the French series, but good to have drivers coming across and driving the full European series as well. Again, this big spread of cars. Hard to tell how much longer it'll be until this 20-minute session will get underway, but you can't fault the marshals. There must be a good dozen of them down there with brooms and powder, drying up the various liquids from the stricken Audi. The fence on the pit wall is being fixed as well. That's just being locked back into position. And for the drivers, it's a case of quick, quick, slow, or slow, slow, quick, because they've got to get out there. And Arcadia Racing, as I mentioned earlier, brought a 2nd Alpine this weekend. Thomas Martinez, we've just seen in the car, and Pierre-Laurent Figuier as well coming out to play. And it's a great chance, you know, much as GT3 has done. If you want to race at any particular circuit around the world, you pretty much can. There'll be a race for a GT3 car, and GT4 likewise spreading its wings with every year around the globe. And hoping next year that we can see more GT3 and GT4 racing out in the Far East as well, after 2 years of hiatus because of the pandemic. But right now, the focus fully on Europe, and next weekend it will be, of course, GT3s and GT4s mixing together in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the 8 hours. 41 cars have been entered for that, so GT racing in the States continuing to blossom and bloom, which is very good news indeed. So, a short while ago we saw the V8 Racing Camaro. Let's go down and hear from Job Jorhanger.
Job, it looked to be a difficult session in the terms that it was very busy.
Yeah, I had a lot of traffic in qualifying. I hope to get a good lap, a free lap. It looked like that, but then some cars are in front of me, and I had to quit the qualifying and shave tires. So that was a shame. But I think in a race we could get we have a good pace, so it must be okay.
Look, it's one of the best looking cars out there. How cool is it to be racing a Camaro?
Yeah, this is very cool, very cool. It's so it's a lot of emotions in the car. You can feel everything. The noise is incredible. So I'm happy to race this car.
Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Okay, so there it is, the number 17 Camaro. V8 racing entry, and his teammate team, and Nabour will take that out. But he's quite right. A lot of drivers, as I said, had already cancelled their session. They'd already come in with time still to spare because they decided, like we had there with Job, that their lap was interrupted. They weren't likely to find another. Save the tyres, keep them sweet, give them to your teammate, and hopefully they, in the second session, can get a qualifying time in that really is representative of the best that that car can achieve. But with so many cars, 43 cars, and obviously in this session we'll only have 42 because of that Team Full Motorsports car being crashed, the Audi on the start-finish straight. But that's more than enough, or maybe too many for a lot of the drivers out there, because they're going to have to work really hard indeed, and just hope that other drivers are being sensible. If you're on your out lap and you're just warming up your tyres, do keep out of the way. Because one of these drivers who are quick out of the pit lane, very soon out of the pit lane, they'll be coming around on their first flying lap, and they do not want to be interrupted. Don't forget, what goes around comes around, so that's a factor all drivers have to remember if they're not being particularly helpful. And the 36 Alpine, that's the one we saw earlier, having a little bit of a spin on the circuit. Different driver, of course. We've changed, all the cars have changed hands. 20 minutes. Hopefully we'll have this run uninterrupted, and then it's so much easier for the drivers to set their times. Still a few cars sitting up and down the pit lane. One of the Borusan Automotive BMWs in their inimitable turquoisey blue colour sitting in the pit lane. The 69 Audi, as I look at it, it just moves. I've got these powers. That's a Team Full Motorsport, Christophe Hamon and Michel Blanchimont. Don't forget that was running, that runs in the AM class, and it was 6th fastest in that first qualifying session. So they've got one good grid position. Can they get a second? Drivers nice and cautious as they start their first, or come around to start their first flying lap, finish their out lap. Quite gentle over that final chicane, but when it comes to setting a flying lap, I'm afraid a lot of that gentle approach goes out the window. A number of the front runners are going out, coming back round and into the pit lane. 3 Aston Martins in a row diving in. Yeah, just CD Sport bringing their Mercedes as well, so a whole host of runners. Maybe they just thought, right, one lap, come in, report, go back out, try and work some clear track. And Xavier Lauvergne, car number 15, really pressing on. The NM Racing team that's been so faithful to Mercedes over the years and had such success in the championship. But as you can see, the different speed between the Mercedes and the Audi, which started a lap later. Totally different attitude. You can see Lauvergne going wide over the curb. He wants good results on home ground as a Spanish driver, and well done to the Audi driver, keeping out of the way. That was the 69 Audi. That was really one of the last cars out of the pit lane. So well done to both concerned, and that's paid off in terms of the fastest first sector time of anyone, set by a fantastic shot there as they go over the crest of the hill at turn 9 onto that infield straight. But they've got 3 cars almost at walking pace down at the bottom. They're going to have to stay right on the left-hand side of the screen, the right-hand side of the track, which they do, but they do slightly compromise the turning point for a driver, Lauvergne, clearly on a flying lap. But I'd say that was as kind as they could be. Looking a very tidy lap indeed for the NM Racing team, Mercedes. But they've had 1 win this year at Paul Ricard, but apart from that, it's been 6th and 8th and 10ths, and not what they've achieved in previous years, because Lauvergne and Luc Ibanez have raced together for several years now. Very good pairing, but still looking as though it's going to go to the top of the charts, except diving into the pit lane. Must have felt there's something they still want to sort on the setup, so still waiting for a flying lap of any merit to be set in. It won't come from this car, the number 12 BMW. That was a lap behind the others and coming out of the pits. I expect with a Jim Pla in a Mercedes from Acura ASP out on the track, he will be going towards the top of the chart soon. Right, Gael Castelli, we just heard from his teammate Rodolphe Walgren. He said he may be qualifying the top 3. Well, he's the only driver on with the time on the board. It's 1 minute 55.356 is the fastest. It's also a very good lap. So look to Jim Pla, faster than that already. I spotted his name down right at the bottom of the page in about 33rd position, but he hasn't got a time on the board yet. Only 4 drivers have, only 3 of them under 2 minutes. American racer Alexander Papadopoulos goes into 2nd place. So it's flipped over to Jacob Knoll. Alexander must have done the first session in that car. Paul Teeskens in 3rd. Vanity Gizi in 4th. Henrik Lingby Peterson in 5th in the Aston Martin. Tom Canning in the Mirage Aston Martin in 6th place. Waiting to see what Jim Pla can do in the next sector. He's faster than he's been before. A little bit of traffic in the way. Nothing too bad. This could be a lap that takes the top. Has to get into the 1 minute 55s. Anthony Chodson goes into third place in the Toyota. His father was up at the front end early on. Now Jim Pla goes to the top. 1 minute 55.2. He's fastest by 0.115 of a second from Gael Castelli. But they in turn are nearly 3.5, slightly more than 3.5 seconds faster than Jacob Knoll, who is sitting in car 35. The BMW down in third position. Not quite. No, it's changed. I'll tell you what, because Jacob Knoll's just been passed by Yagiz Gedik, who's put his BMW up into third, which becomes fourth because Maxime Soulé in his Mercedes goes into third place. Now, what's Jim Pla doing around his next lap? Not as good as his first one in the first sector, but Gregory Fessel, who did the first section and the second session, because he's driving solo this weekend, the one driver who's having a solo run here for the Sansalot Junior team. Okay, that's a good lap from him, up into 8th place. Dean McDonald puts his McLaren just the front end of that shot. He's down in turn 1 now as the others follow him down. He goes up into 5th place. So we've got a Mercedes top of the pile, Jim Pla, Gael Castelli in that Alpine, the guest car, effectively this weekend, 222 in second. Then the Audis of Gregory Gilbert, the Pro-Am champion already. Rui Meujas in his Audi in 4th. And then Tom Canning puts an Aston Martin to the top of the timesheets. 1 minute 55.161. He's 0.08 of a second faster and off at turn 1. Well, it looked like it could have been a Toyota off at turn 1. So I think we'll be having a red flag for that one because that has hit the tyres. So it's Tom Canning just got his time in the nick of time. Red flag. So almost like the first session, but we've got that was a car in the gravel. Car number 13 minutes remain on the clock. So Tom Canning faster than Jim Pla by 0.08 of a second. And it's having a quick look. We've got the Dean McDonald McLaren in 6th place overall, looking to see if the sister car has put a time on the board, but championship leader Charlie Fagg has not got a time on the board. So with this red flag, they're all going to have to come into the pits and regroup, and then we will be able to see exactly how they can get out onto the circuits. So driver out of the car, thumbs up for the team though. It's not so much the thumbs up, it's the job's up, unfortunately. So going into the tyre wall at turn 1 and going through the gravel trap and getting the nose of the car in and the tail of the car up, but down to terra firma. Let's take a look. So coming down the start-finish straight, and well, that's actually very unusual to find a car going fairly much straight on there, so I don't know. But anyhow, the driver is out, which actually is the only thing that counts at this point, but that's a very battered car down at the bottom of the gravel trap at turn 1. So for everyone else, they're diving into the pit lane right now. The last few cars just working their way around slowly. Of course, the crews will be on the radio. Right, this is how we're going to split the next 13 minutes. We're going to go back out, work your way up to speed. We'll try and work you some space in the traffic. Never easy with more than 40 cars out at play. And it was car number 3, by the way. Finally got notification that I paid attention to. It was Toyota, one of the Toyotas from CMR. And at the wheel, it was Andrea Benazet who got out the car. Thumbs up, but not a thumb up for the car, unfortunately. So for those with a time on the board, most notably Tom Canning, who'll be smiling, who just got his time in the number 55 Aston Martin, which is also fairly well placed in the first race, if my mind serves me correctly, because that car from Mirage Racing he's sharing with Ruben Delsart, and he's done a very tidy job indeed. Jim Pla, second fastest, the 87 entry from ASP. He shares with, well, as ever, Jean-Luc Bobelic. They seem to have been partners for a very long time. He's running in the Pro-Am class, top of the Pro-Ams. In fact, Pro-Ams have got second, which is Jim Pla, third place on the timesheets, Gael Castelli, 4th on the timesheets as well, Gregory Gilbert, 7th, Maxime Soulé, 8th, Massimiliano Busnelli. So a lot of the Pro-Am runners have got their pros at the wheel at the moment. That's why they're the top of the table, the top half of the field. It's amazing the difference when drivers know there's a red flag and they just come round slowly around the lap. They're not losing any time, but the lap they bring it in, it just seems to take forever. You think they must all be in by now. I'm still looking to my right from my commentary position. I can see cars making their way, and I think possibly the last one in will be the number 9 Audi from Hella Pagid Racing 1. Christian Gysi and Ralph Kelleners. So, let's go down to hear from the championship leader. His name is Bailey Voisin.
Bailey, a couple of interruptions in the sessions this morning, making it slightly difficult to get the lap times in?
Yeah, it's really tricky to get a lap time in around here. There's a lot of traffic on your flying laps, and there was a red flag in the middle of the session, which was a bit frustrating. You know, it's really tricky around here. I think we're not the only ones that have been affected by it. The main thing for the race this later on today is just going to be staying out of trouble and just hopefully scoring a few points if we can.
Absolutely, and of course the hard work's really already done this season, isn't it?
It's never over until it's over, but definitely everyone at United Autosports and McLaren Customer Racing have been incredible all year long, and we've collected some strong points at every single round. But nothing changes for this one. We still want to go out there and score as many points as possible and hopefully end the season on the high.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's just worth reiterating. Let's just run through the results that have been achieved by Charlie Fagg and the driver we heard from, the Bailey Voisin. First, third, 6th, 10th, 7th, 1st, 4th, 2nd, and poles and fastest laps dotted in there as well. They've had a fantastic season for United Autosports. Another fantastic season, Christophe Hamon and Michel Blanchemin, and they already have the AM title in the bag by a good margin. And in fact, the pairing who was second, Andrea Benazet and Wilfried Cazelbon, theirs was the car that just had its moment down at turn 1, so that may not be continuing in this meeting. Depends when one inspects the full damage to their car, because the two races is later today, starting at 4:40. So I think if it gets repaired for that, it will be a minor miracle. But we still have 13 minutes on the clock, waiting to see what will happen. Car 007, that's the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. Firm fans of Aston Martins over the years. Street Art Racing, very loyal, and that one really stands out in its sort of lime green and blue liveried colour scheme. Pascal Bachmann and Paul Peiskens. Years gone by, of course, the Street Art car was always covered in multicoloured livery. Now it looks almost like sort of the chrome racing green that we've seen over the decades in the States and at Le Mans in particular. It's always interesting to look at the various sponsors around a car, and you think, oh, I know that company. And so diverse. It also gives you an idea about what some of these people do, some of these drivers do to make the money to come and play racing. Jetcraft written large on the flanks of that car. So that was one of the Aston Martins. Tom Canning in his car number 55 is fastest of all. Now, one of the cars we saw going very well was the NM Racing Mercedes. Let's hear from Luc Ibanez.
Luc, it's a big grid, making it rather busy out there.
Yeah, we are here in home. We are racing in home race, and well, we did the quali 1. I did a little mistake in sector 2 and 3, and then I finished P7, P5 silver. Then we are battling for P3 championship, and well, let's see how we can do Xavi in quali 2, and let's see.
What will you be looking for on that first lap of the race from P7?
Well, I will try to everything to overtake much cars as I can, to battle everything for this last round, and well, I will try everything in the first corner and the second one all.
Do you have any advantage, this being a home race for you?
Yeah, I think yes, but I did a little mistake, but yes, I had a little in the second part of the weekend.
And have you got lots of friends and family here supporting you this weekend?
Yes, I have it. I had all.
Important to impress them.
Yes, it's important to impress all.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Well, always good to hear from Luc Ibanez, and the one thing he may know is the track. The one thing he cannot predict, as can nobody else, is where there's going to be a gap in the traffic. So actually, anybody managing to get in the top 10 has done very well indeed. But lovely to have a home race, but you always get the feeling, you know, drivers of his age, they're just simply looking to the next season already. So it'll be friends, family, and potential sponsors on his shore coming to support this weekend, and just making it sweet to end the season on the podium would really help indeed. And they've, as I said, picked up the one win early this year, the opening race of the second round, which was at Paul Ricard. And Luc and Javier Lloveras, his teammate, have raced together for some time now, and a very well-balanced driver pairing. And of course, in these races, you have the driver change halfway through. And for the Pro-Am crews in particular, of course, you know, depending who's in first, the Pro or the Am, the performance does have a difference. But for the silver-ranked drivers, then pairings, then of course you expect more parity between the first and the second drivers. So you expect a uniform pace rather than a drop-off or a step up, according to who's in the car. The Borissan Automotive, BMW's staunch supporters of this championship across the years. Just trying to see the best of their cars, where it's placed so far. It's number 11, it's the sister car, that's Jagi's Gedik. But Berkay Bessler, who is double timing this weekend, he's also competing in the GT World Challenge, so he's very busy indeed, having to get his head around getting out of a Mercedes, if my memory. Yeah, Top Sport WRT Mercedes, number 7. He's sharing in the main race, the feature race, the 3-hour race, but he's got plenty of track time. He's also in that BMW M4, competing in the GT4 European Series. Has got a time on the ball, but not a sensible one. So expect he's effectively got to go out and start all over again. Still got 13 minutes of running for these drivers, and as they know, they've got to work their space in traffic. You cannot afford to take the best out of their tyres when there are slower cars ahead. Running in the Am Cup, Benjamin Ricci sharing with Mauro Ricci. Run together with AKSP for some while now. And the number 21 Audi, that's Sansalot Racing, Gregory Faisel. So, late instruction. Running in the Am Cup. No teammate this weekend, so running solo. Sansalot Racing have been spreading their wings over the years, and you know, very much at the front of the field in GT4 and GT3. So it's been very good past 5 or 6 years for the French team, and very loyal indeed to Audi. And in fact, I think they're running 1 or 2 cars. Yes, 2 cars next weekend, the Indianapolis, in the 8-hour race there. They've got a Pro-Am and a Pro lineup competing in a record field over in the States. But for the drivers, it's quick, quick, slow at the moment, or slow, slow, quick, as they sit in the pit lane, sit in the cars, and wait for the clear up down at turn 1 to be effected. Still waiting for that CMR Toyota Supra to be dragged away from where it stuck its nose into the tyre wall down at the bottom of the slope. Waiting for any indication. Estimated restart time at 12:27. So 4 minutes time is the estimation. But let's go back down to the pit lane and hear from a driver who's had a fantastic championship. He's already won it. It's Fabien Michal.
Fabien, déjà champion. C'était une super année déjà. Et là, première pour le premier course, en pole position.
Oui, effectivement, écoute, une saison exceptionnelle. Première partie sans faute. 6 courses, enfin 8 courses et 6 premières places, 8 podiums. Donc le sans faute parfait. On a eu de la chance d'être titré dès le Nürburgring, la première course. Et là, on continue à performer avec une pole position en catégorie Pro-Am lors de la première course de cet après-midi.
Il n'y a pas mieux.
Difficilement mieux. Après, aujourd'hui, il faut savoir savourer. Beaucoup de travail tout au long de la saison avec le team. Et pour une première année en Europe, nous sommes très contents.
Félicitations. Merci. Just a quick summary there, Fabien saying what a great season it's been with so many podiums across the whole of the year, and a great first season racing in Europe for him.
Thanks, Jim. I actually quite like your summary. Pamier. Yeah, a little bit of understatement always goes a very long way, but it's been a fantastic season. Well-tested team, the Sansalot Racing team, well-tested car, the Audi R8 LMS, and again, it's just that when you've got a pairing that works well together, it makes a lot of sense to keep it together. And Gregory Gilbert and Fabien Michal have really had a fantastic few seasons. But yes, looking across the season, 6 class wins out of the 10 races they've competed in so far. It's been very, very good season 2021 for them. Salazar Racing Team have a couple of, looking down the list, they've got 2 cars side by side in the pit lane, Jacob Knoll and Alexander Papadopoulos in the bright yellow one. So staunch Mercedes supporter as well in recent year for them. So still just waiting for any further signal as the clock counts around through today. But 13 minutes rather than the 20 we started with still to be got through. And for a lot of the field, still to set a time. Half the field effectively have not put a proper time on the board. So it's going to get busy. And the teams are going to have to help the drivers. They're going to have to advise them when to go out, when to hang back. But we'll see the scramble to pit exit very soon indeed. Team in the Boer, we heard from his teammate Joropanga, and that's the V8 Racing Camaro. Quite big rumbly car that has not got a lap on the board. So the pressure on the Dutch driver's shoulders at the moment. And Tiemann sitting 5th place in the overall in the Silver Cup, and has a chance of, well, I mean, if one does the maths, he could finish as high as 3rd in one of the cars he'll be aiming at. The pairing he'll be aiming at will be Luke Ibanez and Javier Laveras. We heard from Luke earlier for the NM Racing Team Mercedes, and Gus Bowers and Dean McDonald also just ahead of them on points. They're running in the 2nd of the United Autosport McLarens. Olivier Estevez waiting for the signal in one of those Sandslot Racing Audis. Sharing with Cyril Salai. And the car that was last one in. Gysi pairing. Ralph Kellen has driven this car this year, but here the number 9 Audi from Hella Pagid Racing 1. Again, like all the other cars around it, sitting, waiting to get out onto the circuit and try and put a lap on the board. In fact, that one does have a lap on the board. Valentin Gysi, 15th fastest overall and 4th in the AM class. It's the waiting game. New estimated start not before 12:30. We're now at 12:27, so we are getting there. And then the field be released, and we're going to have more than 40 cars going out to try and set a time. Right, the best time so far, Tom Canning, 1 minute 55.161 seconds in his Aston Martin. Second place, Jim Plar in his Mercedes, just 0.08 of a second slow, and still within 0.2. Gael Castelli, guest entry this weekend, the number 222 Mirage Alpine he shares with Rudolf Wahlgren. That is 3rd fastest. Then there's a tiny, tiny margin back to 4th place, which is Gregory Gilbert. We just heard from his teammate Fabien Michal. He's in the best of the Audis. And only there, well, we've got 0.2 of a second covering the top 4 runners. But let's go and hear from Marcus Lungstras. He is down in the pits. He drives car 18 for Racing 1.
Marcus, how was the session for you in the first qualifying?
So it was okay. I had quite a good lap. Was quite tough with the red flag, and yeah, as a racing driver, I always complain I got traffic in the last sector. So yeah, it's fine. We are starting on a P15 overall, P2 in AM. So will be a tough fight for me or for us in the first race to get more in front then.
It's true that everybody's talking about traffic, but with a grid this size, that's difficult to avoid. It's an impressive championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. So when we did it in 2018 and we won the Pro-Am as a team and me as a driver, so I always said the goal is to come back, and now with my friend and teammate Henrik, so we made it the first full season for him, so second for me, and no, it's great, yeah, and it's really nice to drive on this high level of competition.
Thank you very much. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend.
Thank you very much.
Marcus Lundstras with that sort of sigh that all drivers have when their lap has been interrupted by traffic. But the format of this circuit, with that chicane just before the final corner, it really can interrupt. You've done 90% of the work, and then you find a couple of slow cars, even one slow car, very hard for it to get out of the way, and your lap is put in the bin. That's why we see so many drivers going, oh, I'll just come into the pits, just do whatever I can. But now they don't really have these options with only 13 minutes remaining in this session, which should be restarting almost any moment now. and then they've got to make their space in traffic. Drivers will be it's almost more of a surprise if a driver gets a clean lap in around the circuit here, so it's going to be frustrating. It's a question of if you can limit the amount of frustration, limit the amount of interruption you have just out ahead of you. Right, we've passed 12:30. That's the second estimated restart time. Looking down the pit lane from my commentary position, the drivers still waiting to have their doors closed and head to pit exit, so clearly another minute or two is going to pass before the drivers go out onto the circuit to complete this, the second of the qualifying sessions for the GT4 European Series. This, the final round. It started at Monza in April, went to Paul Ricard in May, Zandvoort in June, July, right at the end of July, Spa-Francorchamps, start of September, Nürburgring, and here now to complete the running for 2021. We're in Barcelona, in the sunshine, in the pit lane, track looking good, tidy, but it's going to feel cramped when the drivers get out. More than 40 cars getting going. The engine notes starting down the pit lane, so just waiting for the signal to be triggered. 12:35 is the new estimated restart time, but you feel there's a bit more movement in the pit lane, a bit more anticipation now that we're about to go down to the pit lane. So let's go down and hear from the driver who's second fastest so far, Jim Pla.
Jim, I know you're just getting yourself prepared to get back into the car. The session will restart in a few minutes' time, I believe. Looking quite relaxed.
Yeah. The car looks good. We started fresh, so we are quite happy because we have brand new set. So we will see what we can do, but the car looks good. I think with the Mercedes that's quite well here. So yeah, quite confident. Hope we can get the P1.
And a circuit that you enjoy?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. We'll let you finish getting ready.
Thank you. Well, Jim Pla, very good to give us his time just before he gets into the car, but he's very calm. He's been on top of these cars for a long, long time. GT3, GT4, doesn't matter to him. It's Acura ASP and it's a Mercedes, and he gets out and gets the job done. Second fastest, just 0.08 of a second down on the time set by Tom Canning in the 55 Mirage Racing Aston Martin. So it's close, but how are you going to make the best of the rubber beneath you, or are you going to be thwarted? Alpine's in the mix as well. Best of those, Gael Castelli in third place overall in the 222 Alpine. The next best is the guest entry from Arcadia Racing, their Alpine in 12th overall. Thomas Martinez at the wheel. Car number 30, this is the car that took pole position in the first race. At the moment it's only 19th, but you can feel fairly sure with a lap time of 2 minutes and 1 second that Vincent Beltoise was not at his best. His time clearly was a preparation lap rather than a serious lap, probably with a bit of backing off to let some of the front runners come through. When I say front runners, people on their first full flying lap, but the Beltoise name lives on. Vincent and Anthony continue to race, and of course their father Jean-Pierre, a Grand Prix winner at Monaco long, long ago for BRM. The Chodson name on the door of the Chodson Toyota. 16th fastest overall, just under 2 minutes for Anthony Chodson. And when he set that time, it was actually good for third position, but then as others put a flying lap in, he lost 16 positions. But the car entered by SVC Sport Management. Been firm supporters of this championship over the years. And when they first competed in the GT4 European Series, it was probably a field half of this size. So growth is a good thing, but when you're trying to put in a fast lap, it's not always a good thing with so many cars around you, but it's the same for everyone. If the restart is at 12:35, that is just a minute away from now. So the pit lane will suddenly become a little bit busier, but you can see doors starting to be... Well, actually, no, they've been kept open. I thought they'd be starting to close them by and large, but the drivers trying to keep the car as cool as they can be in the cockpit. Don't want to be shut in there with the doors and windows closed for any longer than they have to. It might be October here in Spain, but it's still very, very comfortable weather conditions. So, championship leading car. Oh, so right, we now that all the work down at turn 1, where the unfortunate number 3 Toyota went up in the air in the hands of Andrea Benazet, driver who's came here second in the Pro-Am Championship, but a big hit for them, but that car has been moved away. The barriers and tyre walls have been repaired, so hopefully we will get to our restart now. It's confirmed in 1 minute's time. At 12:36 we will go back out again to complete the 13 minutes that remain in this second 20-minute qualifying session for the GT4 European Series. And who is going to come out at the top? Are we going to get drivers down into the 1 minute 54s? I think it's going to be very difficult indeed. We have a 1 minute 55.161 second lap from Tom Canning at the top of the chart. Very, very narrow between the top 4 runners. 2.22 of a second covers Canning in the Aston Martin, Pla in his Mercedes, Gael Castelli in his Alpine, and Gregory Gilbert, the Pro-Am champion, already in his Audi. 4 makes of car, 4 different drivers, very, very close in time. So those doors will be slammed shut. It's a question, yes, now down the pit lane, at least half the ones I can see in the top half of the pit lane, the doors are closed, so the drivers are going to charge down to pit exit, but they don't want to go in a great big bunch because that could end up with them tripping each other up. They're going to have to just be a little bit careful, a little bit judicious with the space. Street Art Racing Aston Martin fancies being at the top of the queue, but it left from pit end of the pit lane, so probably have some other cars going in front of it as it works down to the exit, and by dint of being down by pit exit, W&D Racing Team Massimiliano Trisoldi out onto the circuit. He clearly start closest to pit exit. You're likely to be one of the first cars out onto the track. Others hang back. It may be a better tactic. This is AGS events keeping their Aston Martins back, or maybe when they go out, the others will be on their flying laps, and it could be very tricky indeed. So let's wait and see. 1 minute 55.161 seconds is the time set by Tom Canning. That is the fastest of the lot. Will it still be so? Will we get to the end without any further interruptions? Let's wait and see. It looks busy. Drivers have got 2 jobs to do. Keep out of traffic, get some heat in the tyres, get some heat into the brakes. Do not interrupt yourself or anybody else. Easier said than done. Top of the hill, top of the image, turn 9. Drivers, you can see, not pushing hard at the moment, just moving across the circuit to get a bit of heat into the rubber. Down to turn 10, reprofiled in recent years. Thought to be easier on the cars, easier on the drivers. Maybe not so good for racing, because it was always a very good point for overtaking when it was tighter. Down at the bottom of the infield straight behind the paddock, you could get up the inside of someone else. Much tighter corner then. Did sometimes lead to cars coming to blows, but it's been reprofiled. Drivers getting accustomed to it right now. First car into the start-finish straight, W&D Racing Team BMW. Trisoldi at the wheel. He hasn't got a flying lap in, but his next time around will be a flying lap, providing there is no interruption. Late out of the pits, it may be a masterstroke. You either go early or you go late, and United Autosports setting their cars out late. They will be looking to do their flying lap, while others are either trying to squeak out a second flying lap or starting to back off. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, we'll find out. So Trisoldi continuing on his way, and the good thing for him, good thing for the Italian racer, there's a big gap up ahead of him, and he's not likely in terms of pace. Oh, he's sort of backed it off. Maybe he's decided to go for a semi-flying lap and next time around, but I'd have actually exited out now. I'd have gone for it now, because he's not going to be overtaken by the Porsche Cayman in behind from Allied Racing, but he's not going to get close enough to the McLarens in front from United Autosports, so he would have clear track. Of course, Trisoldi running in the AM class, so he's not really concerned about what happens at the front of the field, but he could work his way up the order if he actually chose to really push on this first flying lap. He's got clear space, and very few drivers on the track can say that. Joel Comathius has clear space ahead of him, but not. So he's got a trio of cars, including the McLarens, but they should be picking up their pace. Are they going to stay over? One of them stayed out of his way down the infield straight, and he's had to snake between the pair of them on that run down from turn 9 to turn 10 at the bottom hill. He's picked up the pace from his point of view. Maybe it wasn't too much of an interruption, fortunately for Comathius, for the Swiss racer. Just remember that target time, 1 minute 55.161 seconds. Don't know if he's going to get close enough. I think the traffic was a little unkind. He's got the V8 Racing Camaro in front of him. Oh, again, as I said, you can do 90% of the lap. You get the approach, and you just have to back out. You get a gaggle of cars going slowly into that chicane. The sooner we change this circuit to get rid of it. Now you can see the Allied Racing runner in the background. Back it off, make some space, and then accelerate, and then go out to do what you're going to do. So Joel Prometheus has done the hard job. So this will be the problem for drivers who were very early out of the pits for this final 13 minutes. You can do a really good lap, do 90% of it, you get tripped up by traffic that's on an out lap when you're trying to complete your flying lap. It's cost him. Jim Pla, car 87, he may have better luck, and he's put in his fastest first sector, the fastest middle sector. No, he's coming up to the end of the middle sector. The fastest middle sector is Gael Castelli, who's third on the charts at the moment. Gregory Gilbert also flying, Jim Pla also flying with this sort of lap. But Jim Pla, he's only got an 800th of a second deficit. He should go to the top of the table. She'd go into the 1 minute 54 second lap sector. Nobody's managed that yet. Waiting for him to complete that lap. Tom Canning still sitting in the pits. Jim Pla flashing around down to the chicane. He goes on in front. Whoa, that is high, and the tail swinging around as he clunked that curb on the inside. One feels that would have compromised his lap enormously, but he's already got half a second gain in the bag. He was speaking to us only a couple of minutes ago. Is he going to get into the 1 minute 54s? 1 minute 54.5 seconds. That is remarkable. He's 0.6 of a second better than Tom Canning's mark. So Tom's going to have to come out of the pit lane in his Aston Martin and fight back. Gregory Gilbert was fourth, goes second. He also gets into the 1 minute 54, so Canning is going to have to come out. He's now gone back to fourth place. He was first, he was second, he was third. He is now fourth fastest. Rui Meujas has gone up also into the 1 minute 54s. Top three cars covered by half a second. And Tom Canning was top. He's now fourth. Gael Castelli, good first part of the lap. Middle part, not so super special. Still on to make an improvement. He may just move up the order. And we've had a change at the top because I think someone's just had a time taken away. Hold on, we've got Jim Pla now top. Rui Mayo has second, that's right. And the car that went, yes, the one that went into third has now dropped back. So Tom Canning, no, it's gone back. The timing screen is readjusted. It's still Jim Pla from Gael Castelli, from Rui Meujas, then Tom Canning, who's in the pits in his Aston Martin. It's always confusing when a timing screen suddenly loses time. You have to scramble up and down, and with 40+ cars in this field, it's very difficult indeed. Now, Stefan Lemerey, second in the championship, no time on the board. He's out on the circuit, so wait for that. And as I say that, he's charged up the screen, got to find where he's gone to. So he's got a 19th fastest. That's a banker lap from the Toyota racer, car number 8. Wait to see what he can do. 87, Jim Pla pressing on. He's not on to improve at the moment. He's 100th of a second in arrears, but he has a better final section. Remember, this third session, he really clonked the curbs last time around, so this surely will be an improvement. No, it isn't. But still, only one driver's beaten that second fastest lap from Jim Pla. He's still top. 1 minute 54.5 seconds against Gael Castelli's 1 minute 54.7. Gregory Gilbert improves up into third place overall. Very close for second, third and fourth. Top three cars covered by 0.272 of a second. And what's left on the clock? 5.5 minutes remain. Where are the movers coming from? And the number 74 Mercedes down the hill another time. That's Enzo Julie sharing with Sebastian Bull. And that middle sector traffic et al. Has rather scuppered his hopes. He's down in 9th place at the moment. And unfortunately, we have a red flag. We've got a spinner rotated around, stuck in the gravel. Car number 126, NM Racing Team. It's their second car that's shared by Philippe Vava, Asenkovic and Rafa Villanueva. And it's going nowhere fast. Well, there we have it. Rafa just rotated his Mercedes around, stuck it in the gravel. and we have red flag, unfortunately. So bear in mind, right, we've got 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes 35 remaining on the clock. So Jim Pla, top of the charts. Gregory Gilbert, the Pro-Am champion, in second place. And Rui Meujas, Sansalot Racing Audi, in third place overall. Teammate Nebor just banged in the fourth fastest lap. We heard from his teammate who got interrupted by traffic, but the V8 Racing Camaro did not this time, so that's a much better position for them on the potential grid. And they're just over half a second down on the ultimate pace set by Jim Pla. So it's Mercedes, Jim Pla, Gregory Gilbert in his Audi, or Meujas in the second of the Audis, and Teammate Nebor in the Chevrolet Camaro V8, moving ahead of Tom Canning, who didn't go out in that last bit and went from first overall in the Mirage Racing Aston Martin, has dropped not too badly, but only to fifth place right now. Will he fight back? But with only 4.5 minutes on the clock, it's, if you get to the restart after the red flag period has been brought to an end, you've got to just whiz around, get your out lap in, and then bang in one flying lap. Easier said than done. And right now looks quite tricky indeed. So car number 8, and it's the 126 Mercedes from NM Racing Team, sitting in the gravel there for Rafa Villanueva. So it's not just about working your way around in the traffic, it's about other people not putting their cars off the circuit and stopping when you are on a flyer. And so this is the case. Villanueva has unfortunately interrupted the flow of a lot of the drivers out there. Those who've got a time on the board, they at least can afford a little bit of a smile. So for the teams, they have to sit and appraise life. Those that have got a time on the board, they're probably quite confident that they may not have to go and do anything else whatsoever. Those that haven't, they will be frustrated. They'll be looking up and down the table, and including Charlie Fagg, championship leader. He's only 19th on the provisional grid at the moment. 1.5 seconds off the pace. He becomes 18th because someone, I think, has just had a time taken away. But either way, he's got to find a good second to get into the first 2 or 3 rows of the grid, which is a pretty good place to start, particularly when you're sitting in a large championship lead of 44 points, as he is. Frankly, I'm quite surprised we don't have more cars off at turn 8. Look at the bottom of the shot, waiting for the Mercedes to come in, and middle of shot gets it wrong. You get it slightly wrong at turn 7, and turn 8, where the track kinks back towards you, just comes up at you so fast, and then in trying to get the car back on the circuit, readjust, you have few options, and luckily the gravel bed is there to collect any miscreants and tumblers. But tempting to carry more speed into turn 7, but it can really come back and bite you. And in that instant, it did precisely that. So everybody has a time on the board. Slowest of all is Rafa Villanueva, the car we saw in the gravel. He's 41st position overall, but Andrea Benezet, no time, because obviously that was the car that was just starting its first flying lap when got it wrong down into turn 1 and brought out a red flag. This is the second red flag for this session, and of course, with the damage done to the number 3 CMR Toyota, that isn't going to be out again in this session, if indeed for the rest of the weekend. But fingers crossed they will manage to retrieve one more race for them in the GT4 European Series this year. But that was a big hit. This time around, the red flag brought out for sort of a less financially prohibitive incident. No car repairs. It just simply need to get the 126 Mercedes from NM Racing Team out of the gravel, back onto the circuit, get any gravel cleared up, and not on the racing line for when this session gets fired back up for its final 4.5 minutes. And the estimated time of the restart is 2.5, 3 minutes from now. 2 minutes from now, pretty much. 12:51. And with these assorted delays, it's pretty much got us to what was the proposed end time of the next qualifying session, which is for the Porsche Carrera Cup France. So those cars, a good 20 or so of them, lined up in the sunshine just at pit in. They're just behind the pit wall at pit in, waiting to be released when their session gets to make a belated start. So a little bit of frustration for them. And now, what the Pro-Am entry, just making a bit of a hash of getting it going around the circuit and coming back. Couldn't see if the car didn't fire up Christophe and Michel Blanchemin, great season for them. They've already got the AM title in the bag. Andrea Benazet and Wilfried, actually they could, no, they haven't got it in the bag surely, because I think Benazet and Cazelbon could have overhauled them, but now that's the car that's very battered, so I think Hamon and Blanchemin can blow the trumpet. No, in fact, I'm doing the maths wrongly. Blanchemin and Hamon have more than a 52-point advantage. They actually have a 58-point advantage, so that is fine. 25 points for win, 1 point for pole position. At the moment, that point is going to go to Jim Pla for this race at least. And, so they will take that. And for the rest, for a lot of people, if they've had a few trip-ups in a season, with only 12 races in a whole season spread across the 6 doubleheader rounds, if you have any retirement, it really hurts you. No points is an absolute disaster. You're far better, more likely to take a championship tilt. Of course, if you can win races, but you have to be scoring consistently. That is the key in fields as big as this. Restart in 1¼ minutes. 12:52 confirmed restart time. So again, we'll go through this procedure, looking to see how many cars have got their doors closed, right, drivers ready to go out, and it's going to be a real scramble. 4.5 minutes remain in this. It's the final qualifying session of the 2021 GT4 European Series. It's sunny here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. Signals being given to the drivers. Okay, engine on, yes. Door closed, yes. Head down towards pit exit, past the landmark tower at pit exit that famously carry race positions, as we used to have at circuits all around the world in days of old. And it really is insult to injury. In fact, the reason that 126, the car that Mercedes has just been withdrawn from the gravel, is at the bottom of those that are set a flying lap in 41st position, is that their best lap was removed, was cancelled for causing the red flag. So whatever they'd managed has been taken away. That's why at the bottom of the table. Engines rumbling up and down the pit lane, waiting for the signal. 5 seconds to go, and then we get out to play all over again. But it's going to be very, very quick fire indeed. Okay, coming out of the pits first this time is Charlie Fagg, 18th fastest. That doesn't sound like a normal position for Charlie Fagg. Bear in mind that that combination has taken 2 pole positions this year, 3 wins. So expect the championship leader to have his fingers crossed, hoping and praying that when he comes around after this lap, he's going to have no traffic ahead of him when he goes out to start that final flying lap. He may be even just about able to squeeze into, no, probably not. So it's all got to count. Everyone here knows they've just absolutely got to make themselves track position. The W&D Racing team, BMW, getting out of the way of the quicker runners there up at turn 4. These runners now just looking for space around the circuit. I still just can't. I was looking up and down the timing screen, trying to work who was where, who is likely to be interrupting anybody else. But right now they've got to space themselves out, give themselves a chance. And the person who's got that best in their pocket is Charlie Fagg, down in 18th place overall in the number 23 McLaren. This is the car that's dominated the season so far, with his teammate Bailey Voisin, and there it is on screen. Don't expect it to say 018 on the windscreen anymore, the positional marker in this qualifying session, because I'm sure with a clear track he should be able to wind it up. In the first session it was interrupted by traffic and didn't get a representative time in. This time around it looks as though United Autosports have worked it very well indeed. Santalot Racing aren't even sending their Audis out, 3 of them sitting down in the pit lane in the sunshine. Maybe they feel too short a time with only 4 minutes and 35 seconds to go out and scramble around the circuit to try and set a flying lap. But clear track ahead of Charlie Fagg, and those behind suitably spaced out. Huge gap behind the W&D Racing BMW, you'll see just in the background of your shot there, and those behind, immediately behind, will have clear space to play with, as does this man, as does Charlie Fagg, coming out around the circuit. Nice and tidy in the early part of the lap. Precision is required. We know this car is very fast indeed. It's been very well set up through the year. The 570 S McLaren from United Autosports, and the good news for him, no cars hovering around warming up their tyres. There wasn't really time to get the tyres warmed up. You had to just get out and get on it into the final 2 minutes right now. So target time 1 minute 54.522. Get into the 1 minute low 55s. You'd be in the top 3 rows, I would reckon, in this. Looking for any great improvements on times across the screen. They're coming in, but nobody's going faster than the ultimate pace set by Jim Pla so far. So Charlie Fagg, right now, he is down by 1.579 seconds, and he should, with 1.5 minutes remaining, be able to get one further lap in. This could be vital, but he's got to make this one count. And actually, the Porsche behind, I sense, is slightly closing in. So much better middle sector for Charlie Fagg. Yeah, I think he's got enough time. I think they managed to squeak him out onto the circuit, so he's got time for 2 flying laps. He just doesn't have traffic ahead of him. This is very good news. So it's not like you have this flying lap and then the next one will have cars going slowly in front of him. And the Porsche is definitely as quick, if not slightly faster, behind him. Bastien Bus in number 22 Allied Racing Porsche. His is down in 15th position. Max Busnelli, his Porsche, is in 13th, so no Porsches in the top 10. Right, what's Charlie Fagg going to do with this lap? He only goes up 2 positions to 16th. Right, he's 1.3 seconds down overall. Bastien Bus behind him was faster. My eyes didn't deceive me. Up to 4th place overall, so the returning Bus really making his marker. Who else is moving up the charts? Very few people have got into the top 10. No other drivers got into the top 10 yet. Look, we're into the final few moments. The checkered flag will be out in just a dozen seconds, but it means all the cars coming down towards us. This camera position at turn 1 will get one further flying lap onto the board. Handful of cars may just miss the checkered flag coming out. There it is at the end of the session. One of the Aston Martins, I think, just squeaked past in time. So I think we've got a good dozen cars who've got one further flying lap to go. It's still Jim Pla, 1 minute 54.522 seconds. Gregory Gilbert in second place in his Audi. And Roy Meijas, they're sitting in pit lane. They're not using their tyres. They're not using their fuel. They're not using up their drivers. They're sitting waiting, but will they be demoted? And has Bastien Bus got another super flying lap in him? He's just short of 1 minute 55 last time around. W&D Racing Team BMW running in the AM class. That hasn't charged up the order as yet. In fact, Trisoldi down in 38th position overall. Right, Charlie Fagg, what's he got in the bag? No improvement in the first sector, slightly better in the second sector. He's got to pick his way up because being 1.3 seconds off the pace isn't what the doctor ordered. The championship nearly in the bag, doesn't have to push too hard, but just needs to qualify at least in the top 10, try and stay clear of any trouble down the order. But Tom Canning, who'd sat in the pits before while rivals went out, he had been fastest. The traffic in front may be far enough not to interrupt that red, white and blue Aston Martin in the background, but the Mirage Racing car coming up to the gaggle of cars, and Team in the ball waving him up the inside. That was very good from the Camaro racer. He saw the Aston Martin was on a flyer, but trying to get past 4 cars between turn 10 and turn 12, not exactly what Tom Canning was looking for. And whatever he gained in the first sector, he's more than lost in the middle sector. And I think he's probably going to back out of it behind one of those Racing One Audis. Hasn't been good for him. So he almost got the shot in. Right, can anybody else improve their time, get into the top 10? Certainly traffic is an issue at the very, very end of the session. What is left for Charlie Fagg? No, taken the checkered flag in 17th place overall. Championship leader, dominant championship leader, as that's been so tricky for him and almost all the rest of the field in terms of finding a final flying lap in qualifying. The only driver who made it work in the final 4.5 minutes was Bastien Bus for Allied Racing. Great to have him back, and he showed the sort of skills that we expected. And certainly Joel Storm, who qualified well for the first race, will be very pleased. This could be a very tidy points haul for them this weekend. But it was stop, it was start, it was stop again. But for Jim Pla, he kept it cool and on pole by 0.272 of a second. So he worked it well. Very good of him to speak to us just before he went out into the session there. But it was always going to be a scramble with such a short time to go for at the end. 4.5 minutes makes it very, very difficult to get any improvement, and it does require the help of others in so many ways. So looking down the timing sheets at the end, we've got a Mercedes on pole, 2 Audis, And let's take a look at the session from the outset. It was a case of getting busy, getting out, finding space on the track, getting heat in the tyres, and seeing what sort of time you can deliver. But with 41, 42 cars, it was always going to be very, very busy indeed. And so many laps were scuppered by those that just got a little bit interrupted. But it's the same for everyone out there. You make your space. And it really was a case of just trying to keep it neat and tidy. Jim Pla started to go faster and faster in the number 87 Acura ASP Mercedes. Then we had the stoppage and all the drivers came into the pit lane to wait. And at the end of the session, in the end, there'll be many a story to tell. But for Jim Pla and Jean-Luc Beaubelique, they know at least their car will be starting on pole position in one of the races. So they've worked hard. But that final sprint out of the pit lane to see in the last handful of minutes whether a quick time could be put on the board. Jim Clark thought about it, went out, and this is the point at which he delivered. He got into the low 1:54s, and that proved to be all that was required. Drivers still bouncing over the curbs in their Audis and Alpines, looking to work their way up the order. Gael Castelli had a really good run in the 222 Alpine, and then a little spin at turn 8, and the 126 Rafa Villanueva driven NM Racing Team Mercedes brought out the red flag, and then this was this final scramble. And for championship leader Charlie Fagg in the 23 McLaren from United Autosports, looked to see what he could do, could go no higher than 17th, and a final shot for the Aston Martin of Tom Canning interrupted by traffic, and that is why the 87 Acura ASP Mercedes is on pole position for one of the two races here at Barcelona. It was busy out there, track getting warmer. Not sure it was getting any grippier, but certainly some grip was found by Jim Pla to go to the top of the pile. 1:54.522 seconds for the ASP Mercedes. Fabien Michard, Gregory Gilbert, with Gilbert driving up into second place in his Audi. Rui Meujas up into third, and then Bastien Boost, the only driver in the late charge to move up the order, into fourth place overall. Tight at the top, but so many drivers would have had a time that they could have achieved, and they didn't get to do that because of traffic. But it was about those, the accolades goes to those who worked it the best, the ones who found space, found the pace, got the heat in the tyres, and managed to string it together. And you sort of expect Jim Pla to deliver. He did just that. Pole for ACA ASP.